Hi, my name is John. I'm a drum enthusiast and I'm an instructor with TakeLessons.com. I'd like to prepare a short video here demonstrating some tips for musical drumming that are based on supporting the melody of a song. And you can use this concept when you're playing with other musicians or when you're soloing. And I use this to help develop improvisational skills and listening skills and just playing along with the idea of supporting a melody. And some of the benefits of this exercise I'm going to show you, and I'll demonstrate it in a few different styles: rock, jazz, and Latin. This exercise helps develop a more musically mature approach to drumming. As I think I said a minute ago, it improves our ability to listen and it improves our improvisational skills. And a melody that I'm going to work with here today, and I'll play it for you in a second just so you can hear it. It's called C Jam Blues, and that's the letter C dash Jam, J-A-M, Blues. And that was written by Duke Ellington, and you can find that melody in books that are called jazz real books. Sometimes they're called jazz fake books. I always buy the C edition, but I know there's multiple editions. And I just want to point out a few things here. Any melody can be used to develop improvisational skills. I just picked this one because it's relatively simplistic, so it's a very good one for a starting point in building a foundation. But you're not limited to this melody by any means. You can pick any melody of your choice, from your favorite songs to your songs that you might hear on the radio. They could be current songs, they could be old songs, just any melody of your choice. There's also no limitation on tempo. Even with one melody or with multiple melodies, you can pick any tempo of your choice, and I encourage you to practice at slow, medium, and fast tempos. And you can use melodies, even one melody, you can use it in various styles. Even with C Jam Blues, in a minute I'll demonstrate ways that you can play that in a rock context, maybe in a jazz context, and then maybe in a Latin context. And you're not limited to just those styles either. You can pick any style you can think of, and you can reuse that same melody and just adapt it to other styles that you want to work on. You can play at any dynamic level: loud, soft, medium soft. You can use sticks, you can use brushes, thunder rods. You can even use your bare hands if you want to. I've seen some drummers play that way on occasion. So now I'm going to play a recording of this melody. It repeats itself a few times, so I'll play about 10 seconds or so of it, and hopefully you can hear it. I'm going to turn this microphone over to my computer where the CD player is, and hopefully you can hear that. Okay, so I hope you were able to hear that, and just in case you weren't, that's a very, very well-known melody. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube and places like that. So just look for it online somewhere if you weren't able to hear that, but hopefully you were. And before I start with rock examples and jazz and Latin, there's a very important thing I need to point out though. Sometimes when you shift between different styles, the interpretation of the notes changes a little bit. And what I mean by that is, in the rock illustrations and the Latin illustrations that I'm going to play, the melody is being interpreted in terms of straight eighth notes, and that an eighth note just means that there's 2 eighth notes per quarter note. And in the jazz context, I'm interpreting the rhythm of the melody as eighth note triplets, and there are 3 eighth note triplets per quarter note. So just to give you a basic idea of how those differences affect the feel, the different interpretation of the rhythm of the melody, I'm going to play 4 measures just on the snare drum and the hi-hat. I'm going to play quarter notes on the hi-hat, and I'm going to go back and forth between 4 measures of a straight eighth note interpretation of the rhythm of the melody, and then I'll play 4 measures interpreting the rhythm of the melody as eighth note triplets, and I'll go back and forth a few times, and I'm going to start out with eighth notes, and then eighth note triplets, and then eighth notes again, and then eighth note triplets, 4 measures of each, and then hopefully you can hear the difference in the feel. It does change the feel, so you might have to reinterpret the melody slightly depending on what style you're using and depending on what style the melody was originally written in. So here's just an idea of how the different feels affect the rhythm of the melody, the straight eighth notes and the eighth note triplets. Okay, so hopefully you were able to hear the difference in the interpretation of the melody, the eighth notes and the eighth note triplets going back and forth. Also, be aware of some of the concepts that I'm going to use. I don't know if I'll use all of these concepts in the demonstrations that I'll play, but just in general, some of the concepts that you can use when you're supporting a melody. Some things to be aware of would be concepts like phrasing, sticking, rhythmic displacement, question and answer, counter rhythms or counterpoints, and more. There are more concepts. And at the end of this video, I will show you some books that you can buy that will teach a lot of these concepts in more detail. I don't even know if I'm going to use all those concepts when I play. I'll just see what comes out. But whether I actually illustrate these concepts or not, I would at least like you to be aware of them, and I'd like to point you to some resources that can help you develop these concepts on your own. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to do a series of illustrations. I'm going to start out with a rock illustration of C-Jam Blues, and this is going to be with an eighth note feel. And what I'm going to do, first of all, I'm going to play 4 measures where I will just play time on the hi-hat like I'll do later on when I play 4 bars of time alternating with 4 bars of soloing. But I'll do some timekeeping on the hi-hat with eighth notes, and I'm going to play the rhythm of the melody on the bass drum just so you can hear how the rhythm of the melody lines up with the timekeeping, the basic timekeeping pattern that I'm going to use for a rock demonstration. Okay, so that was 4 measures of C-Jam Blues. I was putting the rhythm of the melody on the bass drum, and I was doing timekeeping on the hi-hat. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to alternate between 4 bars of timekeeping and then 4 bars of soloing. And I'm going to do this for a total of 24 measures or bars. And I'm going to sing the melody, that 4-bar phrase. I'm going to keep singing that phrase, that melody in my head as I'm timekeeping and soloing. And hopefully this will just give you a starting point as to how you can play while you're supporting a melody that you're singing in your head. So here's an illustration of how that might work in a rock context. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same idea, only now I'm going to do it more in a jazz style. This will feature the 8th note triplet feel that we talked about earlier. And I'm going to start off by demonstrating some standard jazz timekeeping on the ride cymbal, and I'll be playing on beats 2 and 4 on the hi-hat, and I'm going to play the rhythm of the melody again on the bass drum, just to give you an idea how the rhythm of the melody fits with standard jazz timekeeping. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and do like I did earlier with rock, only now I'm going to do this in a jazz context. I'll play 4 bars of time followed by 4 bars of soloing, and again I'm going to do this for a total of 24 measures. And again I'll be singing that melody in my mind the whole time, that 4-measure phrase of C-Jam Blues. So here's how this might sound in a jazz context. Okay, and I'll give you one more sample of how C-Jam Blues could apply to another style. This time I'll try it with more of a Latin feel, or an Afro-Cuban. I'm not sure exactly what to call this, but something kind of in the Latin context. And I'm going to play a pattern on the bell of the cymbal that I'm going to use in just a minute when I alternate between the 4 bars of time and soloing. But I'll give you an idea of how the rhythm of C-Jam Blues fits against a Latin time pattern that I'm going to play on the cymbal. So this is 4 measures just illustrating how the rhythm of C-Jam Blues would line up with this Latin ride pattern that I'm going to play. Okay, so now I'll do just like I did in the other two styles, the rock and jazz, only now I'm going to play 24 bars in a Latin feel, going back and forth between 4 bars of timekeeping and 4 measures of soloing, along with the melody of C-Jam Blues. Okay, and finally for this video, as I mentioned earlier, I would like to tell you about some other books that can help you develop a lot of these musical ideas that we've talked about, supporting a melody, and some of the other ideas like phrasing and sticking possibilities and rhythmic displacement and all that stuff that I mentioned. Some of these books have been very, very helpful to me over the years, and I like to share them with you. Some of them may not be in print anymore, so you may have to search for them on eBay or Amazon, but I would say it would be well worth your time to look for them. So here's one book called Studio and Big Band Drumming by Steve Houghton. His last name is Houghton. This book has a musical discography in the back, lots of good albums you can listen to representing lots of different styles of music. He talks about a lot of good musical concepts that can be applied to many styles of music. So this is a great book to check out. Here's a book called The Art of Modern Jazz Drumming by Jack DeJohnette and Charlie Perry. And this book talks about phrasing and question and answer and a lot of different musical concepts that are very good to be aware of. So that's a great one to look for. Here's a rock classic to develop your rock chops. It's called Ultimate Realistic Rock by Carmine Appice. His books are classic. They've been around for a long time, and I would highly recommend that. There are many great books for developing jazz skills. This is one in particular that I would highly recommend. It's called The Art of Bop Drumming by John Riley. He has a lot of different exercises you can work through, plus in the back he also has albums that you can listen to and play along with, and he even outlines like the form of the song, the song structure on the songs that are on the albums that he recommends. So this is a very good book for developing jazz. Not only stick playing, but he has advice on brush playing as well that's very helpful. Time Functioning Patterns by Gary Chaffee. This is actually a 4-part patterns series. This is one of the 4 parts, the time functioning patterns. A lot of great stuff in here that you can literally spend your entire life trying to perfect. His books will definitely stretch you and develop you in terms of technique and all kinds of things. So this, I would highly recommend all of Gary Chaffee's Patterns series books. They will definitely help you grow as far as your coordination and all kinds of your understanding of phrasing and all kinds of things like that. There are also many Latin books out there. This one I really like. There's lots of other good ones too, but this one is called Afro-Cuban Grooves for Bass and Drums, and it's by Lincoln Goins and Robbie Amin. And it's got a play-along CD. Actually, a lot of these books have play-along CDs, or at least exercise demonstrations that are on CD. This book also has some recommended listening for this style of music, so that's a good one to check out. Polyrhythms for the Drum Set by Peter Magadini. Books like this are great for developing advanced rhythmical concepts on the drum set. So definitely check that out if you're interested in taking rhythms to more of an advanced level. And there's actually 2 books in here. These are both written by, no, they do have separate authors. Ron Spagnardi, Understanding the Language of Music, A Drummer's Guide to Theory and Harmony. This is a great book for just theory and just learning. I only play the drums, but I like to learn a little bit more about chord progressions and things like that. And these books are helpful for that. And they talk about song structure and things like that. And this is another book here called Drummer's Guide to Music Theory, written by Peter Magadini. Another one of his books. I think I mentioned one of his a minute ago. And this is also a very good book for just learning the basics of music and how to think musically when you play the drums. So I hope this short video has been helpful to you, and thank you for listening.